Hey YouTube land, Tyconders there doing another action figure review. This is something that I got recently, literally yesterday. And it's two figures that I had been waiting on. It was part of, I think, the War Wave one of He-Man and Masters of the Universe Origins line. Now, just before I proceed, I just need to say these reviews are intended for collectors over the age of 13 to abide by the COPA rules. And if you're under the age of 13, ask parents to watch videos, etc., etc. Generally, I tend to review, aim my reviews for those over the age of 13. So, this is a review for Masters of the Universe Evil-lynn and Teela. Now, I got these two together, or ordered them together. They were available on Amazon.co.uk. So, they come in the standard style Masters of the Universe packaging. The one for Teela got a little bit battered, but it doesn't make too much difference to me because I open my figures anyway. But it's done in the exact same style as the original 80s Masters of the Universe line. And if I flip around the back of the box, you have an image of Evil-lynn about to either, looks like she's opening a portal or just after using a spell with her wand. And showcases that you can put the wand in her hand. She has twisting and turning. And then you have the other figures in the line, which is He-Man, Teela, Man-at-Arms, Skeletor, Evil-lynn, and Beastman. Or the Evil Beastman. And then you just have all the legalese stuff. And as with Teela, exact same thing. You can see where it got damaged in transport. There's a big crease in it. So, doesn't make too much difference to me. But I know mint on card collectors would get very upset at something like that. Figure is in a blister bubble. And then on the back of the box, you have what looks like King Randor and Queen Marlena. And Teela, leader, I think she was originally envisioned as the goddess. You could use her as both, but then she also has like serpent guard armor and stuff like that. And then you have He-Man, Merman, and what looks to be like a general, just Eternian palace guard, staring on as she battles the Merman figure, which hasn't, or Merman character, whose figure hasn't been released technically yet. There is one that's part of a PowerCon exclusive for 2020. It's like a 5-figure set based on kind of concept artwork, but again, you have all the same stuff. Figure, weapon goes in hand. You can twist and turn. You can remove her armor, as I have done so. She does come packed with the armor on, with her snake headdress. You get this on her. If I remember correctly, the original figure and the packaging, well, the images for the original figure that I've seen, this wasn't actually on her in the packaging. It was behind her, I think, and you just popped it on, but they changed it up a bit. So it just pegs on over her head. Her hairpiece pops out through the head part. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. Her shield is there, has a handle. It clips into either hand pretty easily and nicely. And then you have the snake staff, which goes into that hand. I would have liked if they had given her a sword similar to her Classics counterpart, because in the Classics line they still gave her most of the stuff, but they gave her an additional sword for her to wield. And Evil-lynn just has her one accessory, which is her magic staff. And I believe in the original version, I don't think this one does it, but the orb on the top of the original one was a glow-in-the-dark piece, possibly. I never had the original Evil-lynn, or Evelyn. You can see her helmet is actually slightly off skew. The center of it is actually slightly off, so it could be just something with my one. I could probably fix that if I put the head into boiling water to pop the headpiece off, because if I just pop the head off in general, without hopefully breaking it, the head is a separate sculpt to the helmet, so you could, in theory, pop the head out of the helmet given enough leeway. These are designed to break apart, just like the male counterpart figures. So the arms are supposed to be able to pop out, and the waist pops in half. Now the only downside with this is they don't, I mean, if I just bring in Skeletor here, Skeletor is so much massive compared to Evil-lynn. I think that was the way in the original lineup as well. They kind of course corrected that a bit in classics, where the female characters still were smaller, but they were nearly about on par with the male characters. But you can see she does stack up quite thinly and quite small compared to Skeletor. I will show them standing side by side later on. And one other thing both figures come with, and it's the exact same thing but slightly different. So this is the comic that came with Teela. You get the mini comic. Again, just with the European version, they omitted all the speech bubbles, so you can't really tell what's going on. They have some sound effects, alright, or, you know, action effects. Again, the same characters on the back. And then this is the one that came with Evil-lynn, which is interesting because she has the name of the comic, the Beast Barrage. And you can see, again, there's no speech bubbles on that. And if I can find it, I have it here. This is the one that came with my Skeletor. I got Skeletor from the States from a eBay seller. And as you can see, there is actually a whole actual story with speech bubbles and stuff. The reason why they omitted this for the European market is because they were probably not wanting to do trilingual speech bubbles and have the writing really tiny on them. So there is that reason for them not going ahead with speech bubbles. But it is something of interest to note that there is slight variations with the comics. Some of them have the name of the comic, some of them don't. So I'm just going to move stuff out of the way so I can bring in the old figures a bit better. So for Teela and Evil-lynn, let me just bring in my tape measure so you can see the height and get them to stand. I'll go over their articulation in a minute. So they should stand around the same height as the standard, so which is 5.5 inches. So you can see Evil-lynn stands around 5.5, and so does Teela with the top of her hair. Articulation is exactly the same on both figures, so I'll go through it on Evil-lynn, which is a bit easier. So as you saw, the arm pops off and you have a full swivel on the arm. Now you will have to angle the arm a slight bit to get the full rotation. You have a rotation in the elbow and a swivel in the elbow, a rotation in the wrist and a hinge on the wrist, ball jointed head so you can get some good range of movement out of it, waist swivel because of that connection point that you can pop them apart with. You have a waist swivel, no ab crunch or anything like that. Now the legs, they can do splits that much, so you can kick forward that much. Can't really kick back. Well, I suppose you can do almost splits that much as well, but you have to kind of angle the leg out a bit to do it. It won't go too far back. And then you have the knees. Now the one thing I would say, be very careful with the knees. When I first got her, her legs were like this, so the actual knee joint wasn't actually in the way it should be. Because the knee rotates, just be careful. So the knee does get a good 90-degree bend. I know some people are saying that it looks really awkward because of the way the knee cut is. I can kind of see why they don't like it too much. The other thing is the lower leg rotates, and you have to be careful with that too, because it's at a slight angle, so if it's rotated the wrong way, it just looks really off, and the hinge for the ankle goes out of place as well. The hinge should be forward and back, and there is a rotation on the actual ankle, so just be careful with that. It's the same thing with Teela. So it's just something to note on these figures. They're a slight bit different to the male counterparts, especially with the way their boots are. It's hard to tell which way is the right angle that they should be facing. There isn't a mark or anything on the boot, but there is a mark on the back of the legs. I'm not sure if it's picking that up on camera, but there is a little mark that says L1 and R1. So when you rotate it the right way around, the mark should be facing you if you're rotating it backwards. So for other weapons, just to bring in, I have a He-Man style shield. So they should be able to hold some weapons. Other weapons they won't be able to, like the shield here. You can see the clip for clipping onto the wrist is far too big. Skeletor's staff, Evil-lynn should be able to hold that reasonably well. Her own staff, the staff part of it, or the handle part of her staff, is about the same thickness as Skeletor's, so you have that. And for a size comparison with other Masters of the Universe figures, I'll just bring in some of the ones that I have. So here is good old Boneface himself, Skeletor. So here he is. Just get his leg into a more standing position. Here he is next, Evil-lynn. We got Trapjaw. And then for the heroic side, since I only have a few heroic characters, here's Prince Adam, Teela. And if I can bring him in without knocking everyone over, I have many faces here. In fact, if I just move my camera a bit, you should be able to see him. So you have, they're about the same height. Well, the male figures can be a bit taller, but I think Teela is taller with the hair. But overall, they're quite nice, and they can fit in vehicles as well, the vintage vehicles, that is. Now, if you have the Sky Sled, Evil-lynn should fit on that, and so should Teela. They do fit well with the Castle Grayskull playset, as you can see, which is what I use for my backdrop when I'm doing the reviews for these. So if I just get Evil-lynn, she does have foot pegs as well. I should note that they both have foot pegs on their feet. So Evil-lynn will fit the Sky Sled. The handles might be a little bit wide for her, but she does have two grasping hands, unlike some of the other characters. So she can grasp controls, and same with Teela. It's the same basic figure. So the only difference is paint apps and head sculpts. The heads are different and the paint are different. Let me just see if I can get that in focus. As you can see, she will fit that. Another very nice vehicle that she tends to fit, and she kind of looks quite nice in it. And let's move stuff aside, and you might hear things falling over or smacking off the ground. Is Night Stalker, sorry, the evil version of Stridor, or whatever the horse one is. So she does fit quite nicely in that, as you can see. If I think Castle Grayskull's door is open slightly. Unfortunately, it's a mess in there, but Teela will fit quite nicely on the drawbridge for Castle Grayskull. So you can have her defending Castle Grayskull against the evil minions of Skeletor. And what else do we got that we can chuck Teela onto? I have the vintage battle ram, which has a Sky Sled as well, and she will fit that quite nicely. Now again, just be careful with the legs and the articulation points. They can be a bit stiff. I mean, the left leg on my Teela is very tough to bend, so if you put too much pressure on it, you could break it, so just be careful. But she does fit quite nicely on the vintage battle ram. And again, because the Sky Sled is part of that, she fits quite nicely on that. And one other vehicle that I have knocking around next to me is the Laser Bolt. So just grab that. As I said, things are falling over and dropping off. If I just take her shield off, So she will fit quite nicely on that. She looks a little bit teeny on it, but compared to the other figures, she does fit quite well. Overall, great figures, great representation of the original line. I know they have muted the colors a bit. If I remember correctly, the original one, the armor bits were a bit more red, kind of this style kind of red. I know some people have said in comments on my channel that they like the idea of the line, but they wish they were more like the originals. You know, the kind of 5 points of articulation in some cases. So I know I kind of prefer the more articulated version, but I do wish the kind of colors were a bit closer to their original counterparts. Most notably, the most changed color-wise is Trapjaw here. His helmet is a bit more pink than the original. I remember the original one being a more darker maroon, his skin being a lot darker blue, and the green, I think the green is about on par, but his face, the green for his face was a lot darker. It was almost like the same dark green as the Castle Grayskull kind of thing, not this kind of neon green. But overall, I think the line looks pretty cool. If I just bring everyone back in again, so you can see them. And I'll just bring in one other figure so you can see them in relation to them. Here is good old, well, you mightn't be able to see this guy because it's John Cena. But this is the Masters of the WWE Universe, which reuses a lot of the sculpting from the Masters of the Universe line. There is, as far as I know, there is plans and they have listings for, but I haven't seen any physically yet, or haven't seen anyone find them at store yet. There are divas, or I think they're still called divas, the female wrestlers. They might have changed that because, you know, WWE divas might be a non-politically correct terminology now. I'm not too sure. But there is female wrestlers coming out, and I think the one that I saw was Asuka. Is that how you pronounce her name? She's the Japanese wrestler. I think she's Japanese. She's the Asian wrestler anyway, with the multicolored hair. I'm pretty sure I saw a prototype figure for her. So there is that on the way, and if you can get those, the parts should be able to mix and match with the female Masters of the Universe line figures as well. So there is some options. Hopefully that line will expand their female cast of characters as well, so you'll have a lot more customization between characters. At the moment, you can really just swap Evil-lynn's parts to Teela's parts, and it's not that great. The heads, again, you can't really swap because they look like bobbleheads with the male counterparts. But overall, it's a good line, so I do recommend picking them up. And if you can find them in stores, should be in Walmart at the moment, and they should be available on amazon.co.uk at the time of this recording. And as far as I know, here in Ireland, they should be in Toy Master stores. I think they have a kind of an exclusive with them. I could be wrong. Not all Toy Masters might carry them, but most of the Toy Masters in Dublin seem to have them. So I would do recommend checking that out if you're in Dublin and manage to want to pick up some of the figures from this line. And they're not too overpriced as well. I think they're around the 20 euro mark, which isn't too bad. So they're $15 in the States, so there's only like a €5 difference between the kind of the dollar price to the European price. So there you go, guys. I know I'm a bit long-winded on this, and I hope you enjoyed this video review. So as I say in my videos, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Cheers, guys.